Portrait model.
Actually, if we're gonna start it now, why don't we go for it? So why don't we go ahead and just go into a new scene? I went file new, right? Boom, just like that. We're in a new scene here.
I
So it's been a
completely
second
forgot I
since I've
could
had
do
to
that.
create a new scene, but it should be pretty self-evident. So the first thing I did was I got rid of the default camera and light that's in there. We do not need those. And then down at the bottom, I'm searching for room layout, which I think should just be in here under prefabs, and then
I
actually
think yeah, it's just in a
it's
prefab.
yeah, there we go. Let's have it. Yeah, room layout is here, and it's located in the asset library. Asset library. Oops. What was that? It's being feisty. Yeah, room library prefabs. Yeah, so it's just in the core prefab thing, right? So all these little folders in here. I'll kind of shrink this down so it looks a little cleaner. So yeah, we go in here into the prefabs thing under asset libraries prefabs, and we have all the kind of like proxies and markers. We'll explain what those are later. Most people in modding should know what that crap is by now. But under the main core prefabs folder here, you'll see room layout. You just drag that in, and boom, you got a playable stage. Kind of, not quite. I'm just gonna set this guy to the 0 position just so I have him right in the middle of my scene. We're really quickly going to give it some just basic geometry using primitives. That is to say, right-click 3D object and just make some quads or cubes or whatever you want to represent for now what will be the room. This is just going to be the floor we stand on, and I'm going to put a back wall here so we have something for doors to press up against. That's all we really need for now. I'm not too worried about what it looks like. Yeah, everything is all black, but once you put these guys in, don't worry about materials and stuff yet. This I think this kind of walkthrough is going to presume that folks have some understanding of Unity. This is not a Unity tutorial. I am not qualified to give one, as much as I'd like to be. So we're going to move this down. Typically, the floor of your room is where you decide it is, but I'm going to try to line this up anyway with that point right there. So the bottom of that, this is the focal point for the where the camera in the room is going to want to look at. I think after that, we just go to room layout and sync visuals, and then boom. What that does is it immediately creates a developer camera, which will show you generally, like if this was the game, that's what you would see in the game tab in Unity. That generally gets us looking at a starter room. Pretty much, and if anybody has dabbled with custom scenes before, back when that was just a thing that you could do in the playground, y'all already know how to do this. But this is the main first step. From here, we go through all the like little room values, and we're in a second going to look at all these little guys up here. Okay, so we have a room layout, we have our developer camera. The only thing this thing needs before we do anything else is a character start position, which is a marker. So what we're going to do is grab this guy under library prefabs, markers,
You're in the right folder.
player start, and there we go. So long as this is contained, you have to make sure it's in the room. It doesn't have to be in any particular spot like characters. We do this to keep it clean. The characters folder is important in Unity when it gets there, but for this, it doesn't really matter. You could put this anywhere. As long as it's in the room, it has to be in one.
All right.
So just to kind of we'll put a squad spawner in there just to show this in a second. And in all honesty, because squad spawners don't have a physical location in the world, like this is where the player will start when the game starts. And I think we're kind of, hold on, we're tired of looking at these gray cubes, so I'm just going to pick a material right quick. Just any material will do. Yeah, you're the one. That's
Even materials
that's
with not Project Nexus shaders.
this one. Oh, what isn't?
No, I'm saying materials that use shaders not from Project Nexus will work.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can even write your own shaders. There might be some kinds of conflicts with the vanilla Project Nexus shaders, but if you know what you're doing, or even if you don't, and you just want to try to apply new shaders, you can do that for anybody that's wondering. You don't have to use just either the materials and textures that came with Project Nexus, nor do you have to use the shaders that we made, which you can see pretty much all right here if you
I
click on
didn't
this.
even know you could write. You could write your own. I knew you could use Unity or Nexus. I didn't realize you could write your own.
Yeah, the reason is because for all the nerds out there, CG, the shader code does not need to be compiled. It just reads as is. Like there's some level of conversion, but it's not. It doesn't need to be compiled and all that. So there is no like runtime for CG, at least not in a way where it's restricted. Because you can't write code in C#, which Project Nexus was written in. You can't write C# code in SceneTools and then add it, like go to add component, create a new script,
Yeah,
and name
obviously,
it, and all
right.
that stuff, mod script, then open it up in C# and expect it to work. It'll get to Project Nexus, it doesn't know what that is, and it'll just do nothing, basically. which is unfortunate. It would be really cool if people could do that. Pirates would love it, but honestly, for modding, I think that would be awesome. So in the interest of just kind of getting this custom stage done for a moment. So what we have here, and then we're going to pop this into the game just to run around for a moment. Let's set this guy. This is going to be the player character. We'll make this, we can make the chef. Let's make the Demos one. So it's Demos. All of these things, the held, stowed, thrown, worn, these are all the MadCard names for whatever weapons, items, armor, gear and stuff, thrown weapons that you want to put onto the character. This will just slot those things onto them. Bear in mind, if you're making a story stage, that the player character will typically get their equipment from the character that, as it's written on the MadCard for the stage. So that is to, and also the loadout that the player has assigned to their character, if available. That will kind of supersede this. But if we wanted to have something like there's a character start for just an enemy. For a guy like this, we could easily do that. So we can put like our Eagle, I believe, is like the default that I do for just about anything, and 47, and then that's what he'll start with. So this guy in the scene is going to be an AHW agent, but we can swap him to something else. Let's make him a, I don't know, something easy. In fact, let's make him a bandit. Bandits are easy. Bandit grunt. There we go. If we have a custom Mad card, it could be like my custom whatever character. You can write that in. That's how the character will spawn. It'll supersede whatever you did for the character drop-down menu. It'll ignore that if you have a valid Mad card in. If that Mad card is invalid, so you mistyped it, or it's missing the mod that has that character, then it'll default to whatever you did in this drop-down, which for us will be Bandit Grunt. So this is going to be a basic-ass room. Things that we want to do here. So there's not a lot of things that you really need to do with rooms. A lot of the stuff has already been kind of pre-slotted, and you can go in here and mess with these things yourself if you want to. The basics are these little red things adjust how far the camera wants to go left and right when it moves and follows the player character through the room. This is the same thing for the forward and back on the Z-axis. It's important to note that this room is set to rotation 0, 0, 0. This isn't always mandatory, but to get the most out of this game and modding and the way rooms are supposed to be built, you kind of want to start with the rotation set to 0, 0, 0 and scale, for the love of God, leave that at 1 across the board. You can not if you want to. You can mess with those things if you want to, and you might get some interesting results, but bear in mind, you're playing God and all of the terrible shit that can happen as a result of that.
It's not
the position
fun.
doesn't matter. Put it wherever you want to. It could be over here, it could be over here, it could be way off in the background, does not matter. Just try not to mess with the rotation. You have ways of adjusting the way the camera will move with view cam zones, which I don't want to cover today. That needs some other work on it. I want to make like camera zones, which those are like, just to kind of show it off. Those are where, for anybody that wonders, if the character or the player steps into this area, use this camera instead to kind of like focus on them, and then you can see on the right all these little values and stuff that are supposed to be adjustments for how the game knows how to do that. We're not going to touch that today. That needs a dedicated tutorial, and I want to look into it to have a button on here, just like with room layout, where you hit sync visuals, so that if I was to say move this camera point right here, which is where you're telling the game, I want the camera to be here when the player is playing the stage, and then I go back to room layout and I hit sync visuals, boom! Developer camera just popped over there. That's what you see in the game when you play now. I want something similar to that for camera zones. It'll make it a lot easier for people to test these things, because right now you have to adjust the values, hope you figured out what the hell any of this means, go in, see that the camera zone actually works. It doesn't, because it never does. Go back in here and adjust stuff, and you get the idea. I want to make that automated.
I would be so
that's
happy.
a big thing.
I would be so happy if the view zones would be like that. Also, for context, about the thing about scaling rooms, just so you know, when you like scale a room by any size, even just an object, like if you go for like a model, if you have a model and it's anything that isn't like 1:1 scaling, like you messed up in Blender, most effects will break when it comes to that. Absolutely, completely break in the worst natural ways possible.
If you, we'll do proper Blender and Unity cohesion tutorials some other time, I think. But there are ways for people that wonder if your scaling is weird coming in from Blender to Unity. You can go to your file in the library. Let's get the mesh for this thing, for example. You can go in here and you can like do things like grab the actual FBX that all this came from, and then go to model and set the scale factor here. That's where you would do it. For anybody that's wondering, you change the scale factor and then it adjusts it until it or you adjust it until it feels right in the game. Okay, so we have this room. I'm going to really quickly make another room using the same exact thing. So we're going to create another room. This guy goes over here. Actually, it would be easier if I just duplicated that, made another one. You can see it's extra bright because I just duplicated, because 2 lights are now on in the room. Just go to room layout and click one of them. It'll set it back. I'm going to get these guys together, and I might name them something else. It's fine. Room layout and room layout 1 is fine. I'm going to really quickly set the ambient color for the other room so we know the difference. We'll see what this is in a moment. And then I sync the visuals, and now we can see that that's this room versus this room. You can see the depth cam went over here. If we wanted to go back over here, let's do this. Let's actually make this a different view so we can really quickly tell the difference. And we should also change these materials too, shouldn't we, to something else? There it is. So now, when we're here, if we're in the game, we sync the visuals in the first room, that's what it looks like. We make it to the second room, that's what it looks like. So now we have 2 rooms that do something different, or look different anyway. And let's just change the lighting color. Now all we need is a way to get between these rooms. We're just going to use default marker rooms for now. So to do that, we go back to library, prefabs, and in here you can see that there are markers and proxies are the 2 major things. All this stuff is tutorialized elsewhere, but the idea is that a marker is something that will cause something to happen, whereas a proxy is a representation that will be replaced with a real object from Project Nexus when it makes it into the game. That can be a door, that can be cover, that can be a locker, that can be the entire whole-ass playground control room, and it can be toggleables as well. Toggleables have an up and down state. They can get more complicated than that, but at their basis, there are things like these spike gates that go up and down and block progress. We're not worried about all that stuff just now. We're just going to do a door that connects us between the 2. So we're not going to make a new folder for it. We just need to make sure it's in the room that's for which it matters. Put this guy here. We're going to copy that, go over to the... Oh, wait, that is room... Yeah, I already did that wrong. Just so you see, I put the door that's supposed to be in this room into that room over there. That will cause problems. Don't do that. Okay. So that door is there. Now we're going to duplicate it. Just like that. Put that over on this side, and that will get dragged over to the other door. So if you're ever wondering, did I accidentally... Like, let's say that I accidentally kept this guy in the wrong room. A good... what do we call it? Like best practice would be every now and then grab everything except for your rooms and see if it looks like anything is floating outside of it, just like that. We do this in Project Nexus all the time, or we did when we were developing. So we can see that feels like it's missing a door, whereas this one had a floating door. We realize, oh crap, it looks like that door got placed in the wrong room. So we're just going to grab that over here. Then finally, the only thing we really need to do here is, because we duplicated the rooms, get rid of those guys. Well, you know what? Let's keep this dude here. Let's give him a different weapon. Let's give him that AN-47, since we mentioned it. There we go, AN-47. So that, when he's a grunt, let's put him back to, like, engineer. Cool. Devos can take out an engineer. Last thing we really need to do to get this going, I think, is get that door connected to this door. You do so by, let's just close this up. All right, so that door here, we go down to its linked door, where it's looking for another proxy object door. We just drag and drop that into here. And now, congratulations, this door connects to that door. Not vice versa, though. So we're going to do this like that. So the previous door connects to this one, and now both doors are connected to one another. We do this because it's not automated, because you may want to have it so one door goes to another, but then that second door may want to go to a third door when you walk through it. It's non-Euclidean, but, you know, there's no reason not to give you the option. So we have those doors now connected, and I think... What was one more thing I wanted to do here? Oh, yeah. One thing that's going to happen by default in Project Nexus, because this adopts from the story campaign, not from Arena, custom campaigns, which is what we're working on, is this room, once we go through this door, this room is going to be disabled, like that, and then this door will open, you'll come out of it, and this room will be no longer accessible. So the fact that this door was connected to the other door doesn't even matter if that room is gone. So that's the default thing that happens in the game. Let me move that camera zone. To stop that from happening, we want to use these guys, the disable lockout tags over here. So what this does is this disables, all right, this room won't be closed off forever when you leave it. That's the default thing. If we go to room layout, the original one, click that on. That means when we leave this room to go back into that room, this room will stay available. If there were any enemies in that room that might have still been alive and you were still allowed to leave for some reason, then they will try to follow you from that room into this one because they're not removed. You can also, if you want to, take the responsibility off of this room. This is more for like boss fountain, locker room type things, where you leave the main room to go get some stuff from some lockers, fill up with ammo and weapons, then go back in. One thing you could do is set the onus onto the second room, and I'm going to call this room 2. I'm tired of calling it room layout. There we go. Done. Finally did it. We could, if we want to, put disable room lockout previous room on room 2, which means when room 1 goes into room 2, room 1 will stay alive because room 2 told it. Any room you just came from, don't disable it. For what we're doing here, we're not going to bother. So I'm just going to put on lockout leave on this, and lockout on leave on this as well. That way I can just walk back and forth between both rooms as much as I want to. With those on, you're good. For starting room is just for if you, for some reason, you don't have a player start, which is possible. It's a possible way to start the game. Or to make a modded stage, but typically you want to have one of these in here. The whole player squad will know to start from either here or from the door that you told them to come from. So in this case, player start has a spawn from door. Let's make that the door right there. It's as though you started the stage coming from room 2 into room 1, but that'll kind of have him start from there, and I'll just drag him here for my own visual satisfaction so I remember that that's where he's going to start. I could put him here. I could put him down here, way off in space. It doesn't matter. So long as I have him linked to that door, that's where he'll come from. But don't put him out here. That's silly. Don't do that. So, okay, so we have this. I guess now we'll go ahead and, unless I've missed anything, let's go ahead and build this. Oh, yeah, that's right. One last thing that I haven't done and was stupid is I haven't saved my scene yet. So let's do that. Tutorial 1. So the last thing to make this exportable, and again, most people who've worked in mod tools and SceneTools know this already. Click your scene. You don't have to click anything that's in here. All this stuff that's in the scene will be dragged along with your asset bundle. So zipped up asset files will all come with this scene. You don't have to worry about it. All your code that gets used here. So I mean specifically all of your shaders that might be used on materials that are on objects in the scene. Any kind of like custom object that you may have imported from Blender, your entire blend file will be included in this asset bundle that gets created. If not, then modding would be screwed. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new tag, I think, for this, and we're just going to call this tutorial. Oh wait, hold on a second. Every now and then Unity does this. This is just a thing.
Tutorial.
Yeah, there we go. Tutorial. Let's just call it tutorial. Whatever. That's good. You can do tags and stuff, but I don't bother with that. It's not necessary for what we're doing. So we're going to go Madness Asset Bundle Build, and what this is going to do is it's going to open up a folder that'll show, it'll be my C drive, I think. It's wherever I have my OS installed. So there we go. We have the My Custom Scene object, which is what this sample playground that everybody has access to has. You can see right down here, My Custom Scene. That has been exported. We're not worried about that. And then tutorial.sobj. So the next thing to do is going to be, we need to open up a, here, hold on. Let me get rid of that. I want to make sure, I don't want to provide sensory overload. I got nothing to hide on here. I just want to make sure I'm not distracting folks. Okay, let me see. All right, so we're going to go to app data, local low, jibbing tree. Yeah, you can see we've tried different ways of setting up the jibbing tree local low folder. Mod tools. SceneTools is where I think everything is saved right now. Yeah, that's where we are. So we're going to go to Project Nexus. This is, I think that's my user ID. Careers, arena copy. Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to go into mods and we're going to make a quick thing. So let's see. We're going to go tutorial mod. And I'm just going to copy paste from some other ones, but if I'm not mistaken, you should have a preview image. But if you're just doing this locally, it doesn't really matter too much. But you want to have an info text, you want to have something in your mod, but you need to have an info text of some kind. So let me really quickly drag this into here, and because I just copy pasted that, I lost my copy paste from where is it? SceneTools. So I'm just going to grab this again, tutorials, go back in here, Project Nexus, mods, tutorial, paste that in there. Cool. So let me just really quickly see text editor. Yeah, okay, so I have this. Hang on a second. There we go. I should be doing a better text editor than freaking Notepad, but that's what we got. Okay, so
Notepad
this is just from the copy paste from the previous one, so I'm going to go tutorial, mod, Just testing the description is fine. Swang, I like to do that as my test thing, and then tags. Test, and then, whatever, tutorial. Just because, why not? The Notepad thinks that's illegal. Because this is JSON, I should be doing this in Visual Studio, but whatever for now. Because this is just the info text. When we get to making MadCards, I'll probably do that. So I think we're good here. It just needs to have an info thing to know that this is a mod. Otherwise, it won't know what to do with it. So, okay, back to that folder. Actually, we don't need a... If we wanted to just test this in Playground, we would want to name it _PG, right, for the scene. So we'll skip that for now, and we'll just go straight in and I guess make a quick campaign MadCard and a stage MadCard in order to wrap this thing up. So let's see. So I guess we want to go to yeah, we're just going to create a new Visual Studio. So this is Visual Studio. This is where we've been making Project Nexus. You can see all the game versions and stuff. But we're not worried about that right now. We want, let's see, MadCard. We'll keep MadCard open. So this is what MadCards look like in Project Nexus on my side. And what we're looking at is, so you can see all the different values for all the different kinds of like stat cards, which are what what Project Nexus calls MadCards. MadCards are the JSON files that you guys make, then they get converted into stat cards in Project Nexus. This is the part of the code that's responsible for that conversion. We're not worried about that. I just have this as kind of a cheat sheet with some notes for stuff. And some other stuff that we're trying to cook up, like Dark Signal was hoping for having scenes that don't have load screens, but that for his Super Mall campaign, but that's kind of a problem the way things are set up now, because mods kind of rely on the load screen to do the conversion in the background between all those markers and proxies and what they actually become in the game. So I think we're just going to create a quick stage and a campaign to wrap it up, just to quickly address what those things are. So we're not making a story stage. We're not making an arena stage. What we're making is a custom stage. Custom stages don't require too much. All this other fancy stuff, we'll get into this later, maybe even some other time. It's all tutorialized. I have write-ups that describe it, and MadCard Maker also has, I guess, tooltips and stuff to help you understand what these things are. The main thing that's important here is that a custom stage needs to point to basically a scene, and it has to have a character that the player can play. That's really, I think, it. That's all that has to happen, so that's all we're going to cover. We're also going to kind of look at what a hub is, which we kind of get that. That's in Story Campaign. There's the stages you play, and then there's the areas that you run around in, like the sectors basically are considered hubs. And hubs are not winnable stages, and hubs don't need to be used to access, I guess, stage starts and whatnot. You don't have to use them that way, but that's kind of the intent. So for this first thing, all we're going to do is we're going to create a campaign, which that's how the game knows what a stage or a series of stages is supposed to like be. So the Nevadian Super Mall Dark Signal stage is a custom stage that is wrapped up with a custom campaign, and the custom campaign really just tells you where it's going to start, what the difficulty is when you start, if there's an icon for that campaign when you access it from the main menu of Unity, and then finally, you know, all the tooltips and what are the stages that are meant to be called hubs. I'll get into why you would need to fill this with lists of stages that are hubs here if you've already got them marked. The main thing is so that when you go to a hub, it lists the name of the hub at the top, just like Project Nexus, bam, Science Tower, Courtyard, or whatever. You would put the hub stage in here. We're not worried about that for now. I just want to acknowledge it. So at its bare minimum, a campaign just needs to have a start stage. That's it. All that other stuff, like the descriptions and stuff that other things have, the name of the campaign, you still want to fill those out. That is still something that they extend from here. Assets, yeah. You're still going to have all the file names, all that stuff. However, and yeah, I guess campaigns can override each other and everything. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to. So the first thing to do is basically we need to create a MadCard for a custom stage. Then we're going to run it in the Unity editor. Well, we're going to run it in Project Nexus that is being run from the Unity editor, and we're just going to see to make sure that we got everything all set up. So
are arenas implemented yet, or is that still to come?
Yeah, arenas are not yet. That's going to be later. We needed to make sure that this was solid first, kind of like how when we built the game in the first place, the story campaign kind of had to be made so we could create the like structure, the flow, understand the do the game dev stuff with that first, and then go back with Arena with everything we had to build a cohesive game experience. That's kind of what's happening here. Although we're calling them custom campaigns, they are basically mini story modes. I don't know that anybody will ever be able to make a custom campaign that is itself an Arena campaign. I doubt that, but I don't want to say no. However, custom Arena stages within the existing Arena campaign, that I see is very, very likely after we have ironed out the things. I did set this to Demos, so when it comes in as Hank, that should at least illustrate why he's coming in as Hank. I also rotated these doors because they were facing the wrong way, so my Demos was actually running into the behind the wall and then falling through eternity forever. We also set this. This is something I forgot to mention on both of these guys. Let's actually turn this off. But each of these, I set the layer to terrain. We have tutorials that explain what all these do, but the default thing that you want to use most of the time, and go through the written tutorials, they'll kind of describe what these things do a little bit better, or in more detail than I can afford to do now. But you typically want to do terrain for the wall that's furthest away, because it's going to block your aim. When you work in SceneTools and you set something as terrain or don't set something as terrain, you'll see what I mean. And I'll show you when we get in fact, with like, maybe if I do like this, and duplicate this guy here to be a different thing, we'll make this a different material, so we can see the difference. Yeah, and we'll set this to just, I don't know, obstacle or something. We'll show what the difference is. And same with the floor. However, you also want to set the floor to tag floor. This is it helps with spawning. It's not necessary, but it's pretty important. And I would go out of my way to make sure that everything that is a floor has the tag of floor on it. Which does mean when you're building these stages, try not to let the walls or things that aren't floors be the same mesh as what will be the floor. Otherwise, that entire mesh will be a floor, and things like Crackpot trying to teleport during his fight, maybe he teleports outside the scene because there are floors or meshes labeled as floor outside of his area, which, by the way, is why that bug was always a thing a couple of years back, and hopefully isn't anymore. I haven't seen reports on that. So let's go ahead and asset bundle that, build that. It's going to export to a folder. Okay, I think it did that on the side on my screen, so I'm just going to really quickly copy paste that over to the tutorial mods. I know you can't see what I'm doing, just doing that off screen. Okay, so that's been transferred over, so now we can pop in here, play this. You can see all the stuff, including the demo where it's Matt and Swain. Up in the top right. All the little things that should appear do appear here until they're turned off. That, as Gangrene knows, is an object destroyer script that looks at the version of the game. Okay, so tutorial, new game. We're in, but I don't see Hank for some reason. Did we get rid of it? Did I not save it? Maybe I didn't save it. Let me see. Oh yeah, because I didn't save it. Duh. Duh, Swain, duh. Close it. Play it. I probably didn't even need to do that. Actually, that would have been a great time to test. Does that update my mod? In fact, we should just do that now. After we're done here. Okay, so here's the reason he's called Test Boys from another mod I have running. I could just as easily turn that off, right? Go over here, turn off that. Oh, it's interesting. Tutorial mod. That's the one we're working on. The campaign was still. Oh, you know what? I think it was enabled, but it wasn't displaying as enabled or something. I don't know. I'll look at that. That's just a continuity bug. Okay, so we go here, new game, there's our Hank, because the other mod is off, and then we launch it. So I just killed the, oh, why are all those grunts there? Hold on, let's restart this scene. Oh, it's because I put the squad spawner there, didn't I? So it made all those guys, and then the... Yeah, that's from the squad spawner, isn't it? Yeah, the squad spawner I dragged in is just making a bunch of grunts. That's the default. Okay, so that's cool. We can even check and see if I was to drag and drop that into a different area. Yeah, that thing. What did I put you? Put you here. Anyway, so we go back into Project Nexus. So we're back in here again. So now when we go through this door, we come out over here. And once we kill this guy, we should be able to... Oh, because we copy-pasted, both of these have the squad spawner. That's fun. So those guys are all dead, and for some reason I can't go back there. No, I can. It just unlocked the room. So yeah, because I set those details on those rooms that say don't disable me, I can go back and forth between them. So there we go. We have a custom stage. We have no way to win. Using dev commands, which I made available, you have to just look at the changelog on Discord for anybody that's wondering. But you can set you can set some values on Project Nexus to run with dev tools on that allow you to do things like pressing like Control Enter to or Shift Enter or whatever to like win or lose or become invincible. I think Home button is how you do it normally. But I'm just using key commands to win. So because I just won a single stage, I should get hit back, yep, right to the main menu. So that's intended because there was just one stage. Let's say you just want to make one stage. No end credits, no hub, no nothing. You just want to make a stage. You have to have it wrapped in a campaign so that the game Project Nexus knows where to find it. I can try to continue it, and it'll basically play where I left off, which is just this whole stage again. Or you can create a new game, which will start you from scratch. But whatever, we'll just shift end or home end or whatever, or shift home, whatever the keystroke is. And you notice it kicks me back out to the menu. You can stop this from happening if you want to make it so when you win a stage, you don't go to like the main menu. You can either A, from your stage, and we're going to go back into the MadCards here. From your stage, you can set the default to stage, this value right here. This will be easy to find in MadCard Maker, but you're going to set the leave default to stage value to the name of the stage that you're going to go to next when you win. So it could even be the same stage if you just want them to play that forever. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a second here. Because the beauty is we don't have to go back to SceneTools to do this. We just go back over to my my set of MadCards. We set, let's see here. We go to the stage. We're going to make another entry right here, which it's too long to remember, so I'm just going to copy paste it. I'm going to copy paste leave default to stage. Oops, go here. And we're going to pick the same exact stage, which is this stage, to go into. Totally valid, I believe. So in theory now, when I beat the stage, it's going to say, all right, well, leave default to stage. And you probably also, if you were paying attention, you might have seen there's also leave default to door. This is how you would tell the game when I beat the stage, go to this stage, but from this door. You could make a stage that when you play it the second time, starts you from a different door than you started in the first place. Totally valid. You can do that. But for our purposes, we're just going to set it up this way. If we wanted to, I could go back over here, grab the door in the second room and be like, the serial number for this is door 2. Copy that, go over here, paste it in there to that value in my MadCard, which is right here. And it would absolutely send you there. But we're not worried about that for now. It just suffice it to say it would work. So we're going to save that. And again, in theory, we start this up right now. Let's actually, you know what, let's see what happens if I do that, apply it. I think it reloaded everything. So in theory, I didn't restart Project Nexus just now. So it should just do that. I'm just going to right off the bat, right when we start, I'm going to hit the keystroke to auto-win. Boom. And let's see. Did it auto-update? Will it send us right back in? No, that went to main menu. So let's try rebooting. Stage victory. Will it do it this time? Yes, cool. All right, so now we know for sure. I saved the MadCard while the game was running. I quit and reloaded, and but did not reboot the game, and it did not change my mod option. So I'll set something to either A, it just does that beat by default when you hit apply, or B, you can just reload your mods from disk. Either way. So I'll handle that. That'll be a thing, but as of right now, that's not I guess not an option. So we'll set our Hank however we want to. Order up. Crackpot loadout. Sure, why not? Yeah, let's give him the vampire. I have access to all these because I'm running Project Nexus from the editor, so I have all the dev stuff on. But as you can see, I just played the map. It loaded directly into the stage starter from the victory screen. But once we get back in, we're just here again. So now I'll Hank it up, and then if we win, it's the same exact thing, so we can just do it again and again and again and again. Now here's the thing. If the stage that you're being sent to has been marked as a hub, it won't give you this stage start thing, because hubs are not playable stages that you win. It'll send you to that hub, and then you can kind of walk around there, and then that's where you would move between other hubs. You would look for stage starters, just like the story campaign in Project Nexus, and then you would launch that and then start the stage, which would probably then, from your stage MadCard, spit you back out into that hub. I think for the purpose of brevity, I won't cover making a hub and showing you. Suffice it to say, just right here where it says leave default to stage, just put the stage, you know, the file name of your hub which you would have marked as, I think it's, let me just double check right quick. I think it's hub or am hub? Am hub, yeah. So you would just have, not that it matters for you guys, you'll be using MadCard Maker, these things will all be there. You would just have it be am hub, true, and then now it's a hub. I don't know what happens if you just play a hub from default, but I'm pretty sure it's just going to send you in here. There won't be a stage start screen because it's not a stage you can start. You would just go right into here. But we wanted to make sure that players had the option of starting cold in a scene that is a stage, just like the truck chase from Story Campaign. But we wanted you to be able to change your loadouts if you've played it before, and God help us, give players the option to set the default difficulty for that stage as well, so they don't have to just go into truck chase from a new campaign, and it has to be set to normal difficulty. You can play straight from top if you want to, or easy if you want. Or I think the truck chase is set to easy on your first go. I forget, but you'll have options now with custom campaigns. So you'll have that cold open into a stage start screen, and then you're just directly into the game as the settings dictate. But if it's set to a hub, you'll just go straight into that no stage start screen because it's not a stage, and then you have the option of setting stage markers in there. So I guess we could set it up, like I could show you how to do it, but in all honesty, I believe you just drag in a stage marker, which is just in markers. Yeah, you go to markers, stage marker, grab that, and put that somewhere. I forget whether or not the game restricts you from being able to launch these from within a stage, but if it does work, then it would override the stage you're in, and you would just be in a new stage. So that should work valid, but I'm not entirely sure. And then for stage, you just include the file name of your MadCard. So just like, where did we go? Just like the name of our stage was test stage tutorial, we're going to grab that. We go back into SceneTools, and then that'll go right there, just like that. All these other things, world changes, prerequisites, forbidden, those are world changes that has something to do with the event system. That'll have to be covered there. But what that means is that with the event system and cutscenes as well, you can flip switches on people's careers that permanently say true or false for something of your choosing. So in the event system, I could be like, I want my event bool will start off as false. That's a world change event. It's set to false. The event system or cutscene running can then fire this off, make it true, and then next time you come into the stage, the prerequisite of this being true will fire off, and then this stage will either not appear because you haven't done it yet, or will appear because you have done it. Specifically in Story Campaign, this is when Christoph is looking through the 3 laptops to find the entrance to the sleeper labs. That's the thing that makes it so that you have to have pressed the right number of things first in order for that stage to auto start when you enter that scene. There's a bunch of little finicky, jivey stuff happening in the background to connect all that crap, but that's what that was meant for. So you have some control over whether or not a stage start appears there. If you don't do it, but the stage that they're going to has prerequisite stages, like for example, you can't play, can't play, what did we have? I think you couldn't see it in the industrial sector, but you couldn't do Boom Factory, the second industrial stage, until you played the first stage. Makes sense. But without prerequisite on, that start stage will still be there. You'll see that it's a stage starter. However, it'll be red and inaccessible. I believe is how that works. It'll be red and inaccessible unless you mention something in here. And forbid is the opposite. It means that it's the exact opposite of if you put it here, which means the thing will appear as long as this is false, but once it's true, it won't show up. And then Amquest if Unbeaten is just there to be like, do you have an arrow indicating, hey player, go over here, this is important. If not, then they don't get one. And they won't get one if they've beaten that stage before as well, hence the name of that. So that covers stage starters. I'm not going to bother with that for now. Just know if you're making a hub stage, all you have to do is make sure to set that to am hub, which I had over here. Or did I undo it to? Yeah, there it is. Set it to am hub true. And in your campaign, it's a good idea if you're going to be walking between hubs, multiple hubs, that you want the game to update the hub that you went to. So if you were in Project Nexus, you're in the industrial sector, you walk to the commercial sector or district, and then quit the game remembers that that's where you were last and boots you up there. You don't start back from the industrial sector. And the reason is because that's a hub, but not all hubs want to be places where you auto-save the game. We want to give you control over that. So what we did is we made that hubs thing I mentioned over here in campaign. What we do is we just we make an array. I think it's just a list of strings, right? So names, yeah. Those get converted into custom stages. So what we would do is go, what did we say, hubs, and it's an array, so we set the brackets, because I believe curly brackets are for objects in JSON for anybody that gives a shit about that. And we would just put in the name of our stage that would be a hub. This stage, currently, in the way that this is built, is a hub, so we could put this here, and that means whenever I enter it, it'll say new stage up across the top of the screen, just like it says industrial sector in Project Nexus. That's dumb for this, but that's what would happen. So you want to set this as am hub so the game knows when it runs it, and you want to set this here to make sure that A, it saves when the player goes here, and B, that it will also put the name of the sector up above on the top. We also did this for the flashbacks for Christoph in the story campaign as well, just to make sure that it showed it up at the top. So you can do that as well. Hubs can be stages that aren't really stages, like those flashbacks. So, yeah, so that's what's going on here. If you don't include this, all that matters is, like, if, let's say you want to have a, I believe Dark Signal has a cutscene stage scene at the end of the Super Mall for those that have beaten it, and I believe that was set to am hub true, but not with this, because he doesn't want you to start from the cutscene for credits every time you reload into that game. He wants it to reboot. So he doesn't include it here. However, you do still want to mark this as am hub for stages like that, because that stops it from being a stage that has a start with a character that needs to be picked and then a launch button where you choose your difficulty. You still want to have am hub for, you know, walking into from one scene to another and not having to have a stage start. It'll make sense as you play it, but just as a general rule, if it's not a stage you play, leave this false. If it's not a stage, if it's not a stage that you're going to be playing, sorry, leave it as false. If it is a stage, mark it as other way around. Sorry, if it's a stage, false. If it's not a stage, true. Sorry, I got that mixed up. So that should cover this, and I guess I kind of live demoed this. That's also kind of important. It's just better for Unity, but if something is a non-interactive thing that's not going to get highlighted, and it's not something that's ever going to move, and it's good best practice to make sure that if it doesn't have to move, don't make it move. Oh yeah, we didn't get to test out the terrain and obstacle. Just make sure to set these things to static where it's important. It's up here in the top right. You set that to static. You can choose the kinds of static you want. Typically, everything is fine. That's what most of our game does. Most of Project Nexus does. Mark it as static. It helps with physics calculations and rendering. You'll thank me later. And it's best to just do that where you can. But yeah, you know what? Why don't I go ahead? I'm gonna just go ahead and start putting together a cutscene. I think just to kind of show what's supposed to happen here. And I'm gonna get rid of all the extra characters and stuff. I'll leave this guy in that room. That's fine. He can stay over there.
Oh.
Actually, you know what? Let's put it in the other room so we can showcase how that kind of works. Yeah, let's put it in the second room. So this will be the cutscene room. So cutscenes are also markers. You just drag and drop this boy in here. You'll notice that there's not really any kind of visualization on this. There's only 2 objects contained inside of a cutscene. There is, other than the cutscene itself, which has all the class information about it. There is a tutorial online. It will cover most of these things, but I want to cover at least the basics to setting this up so that people can get their basic cutscenes working, and then we'll cover some of the more detailed stuff. Let's work on the cutscenes. We're going to start from scratch. Let's get rid of the cutscene. We'll start from here. So I'm in room 2. Okay. I'm going to take this cutscene. I'm going to drag this in here. We're not quite done yet. It's pretty easy, but we're dragging and dropping a cutscene directly into the world. So I'm going to go, boom, it's right there. Make sure it's in the correct room. It's now in room 2. Most importantly, we're not going to worry about serial number for now. You guys kind of know what that is if you've worked in SceneTools before. So attaching cutscene cards. Cutscene cards are basically collections of what we call steps. We'll address that later, but steps are basically a moment in a cutscene. It's kind of like a guy saying a thing, telling a person to walk to a position, making somebody invincible or teleporting them or something, running a moment in the event system as well. You can do that from cutscenes too. We're not going to worry about that now. This is just the easy beginner tutorial to get people started. We'll do something more complicated, like a really big deep dive later. This is just to get people going. You'll notice that the attached cutscene card is going to be that. This will be the file name for your cutscene card. Just the same as if you were going over here and trying to assign a different MadCard to your player start for your character. Same thing with cutscenes, except these aren't MadCards. They don't override each other. They are custom just for you. You cannot override cutscene cards. They're just the thing that you make for you. So because they're not MadCards, we don't call them MadCards. They are just cutscene cards. So you can name them whatever you want, and that's the default name that comes with anything. By default, you can duplicate as many of these as you want to, and they come with some stuff on them to kind of get them like ready. So if you're going to work with new cameras and marks, I'll explain marks in a second, then you're going to want to duplicate them from here, and then make sure to drag them back in here as well. If they're not listed in the mark thing, not going to know how to find them. Because your cutscene card is going to indicate the mark, which is a position on the ground for a character to walk to, run to, sprint to, or teleport to. You're going to be doing those with marks. So if we want to have a second mark, we can do that. And I'll in fact do that in a moment. But for now, our first mark is right here. So we're just going to move that over here. If you want to, you can add like a mesh renderer or create your own marks or whatever if you need to. But we don't have any visuals for them. But yeah, that's basically what these are. So we're going to put a mark, like let's say like right here, and we're going to make our character run to this position when we start the cutscene. The mark is already queued up right here. There it is. That's its position in the world. And then next we have the camera. Remember, by the way, these things are nested. So if you ever have your cutscene and you're like, I don't like it here, I'm going to move it here. Remember that you just moved your camera and your mark. Just remember that. If you need to, you can copy paste those and put them outside the cutscene if you really want to. You can do that. Now these things are not nested inside of inside the cutscene, and you can then relink this to those things instead if you really want to. You can do that. I'm not going to do that for this tutorial. We're just going to use the defaults for now, but that's a thing you can do. So we're going to put this cutscene back over where it belongs. Mark is just somewhere on the floor. And camera, we're going to go like that. Doesn't really matter. This is just we just want to make sure that your dude can be seen. So that's our weird, absurd cutscene angle to prove that it's working. Remember, the game will look like that, right? But then when we're in the cutscene, it's going to look like this down here. That visual right there. Right? That's the camera preview. So, okay. Now we need to indicate, let's see. Oh yeah, the world change, remember, that's the same as the world change that we mentioned before. This is a way to set world changes without having to even touch the event system. Remember the world change I mentioned with this guy? I had it like listed down here. It was like, I beat my stage 1 or whatever. You could make the world change, I watched cutscene 1, or just cutscene 1 or whatever, and make that the world change. And as soon as you run this cutscene in this stage, it'll run the cutscene, it'll set that world change to true, and so long as that world change is set to true, it'll never run this cutscene again for the rest of this game's life. The only way for it to run that cutscene again is for you to use an event that sets that world change back to false, and then that cutscene can run. I do not recommend using this in stages. I recommend this for storied events in hubs. You can put this in stages. Again, if you had like a stage that does multiple plays, you may want it so that that cutscene only plays one time. You have the option. Just as a default, I probably wouldn't do that in a stage. Cutscene priority is just to let the cutscenes in your scene know whether or not they override the others. I believe that this is not opposite. I forget what the order is with MadCards, but I believe if I put 99999 like that cutscene will supersede cutscene 0. So if cutscene 0 is playing, and I will absolutely go in and post a big old top comment type thing on this if this is wrong, but I believe cutscenes prioritize themselves with the highest, interrupts things lower than them. So, which I guess is kind of like MadCards, isn't it? MadCards override, like the top most priority overrides the lowest. And then from there, there's just the stuff that you would expect is normal, that rather makes sense to you. Unskippable means you can't skip it by pressing enter. We're going to turn that off. So you can like press enter, enter, enter to go through it. You may not want to have that. And you can case by case also turn off skipping on individual steps, so moments in a cutscene as well, that invert it from what the default is. But we're going to keep this as unskippable false for now. I felt like there was almost a question there.
I think someone left call.
Yeah, Orange is out, but we'll be back. Okay, so dialogue is narration. That's how you make it so that it's off, means the chatter will appear over their head. Dialogue as narration gets that big like cutscene thing up at the top. Player-only activation is a good default to use. That means that only the player can activate it. So if let's say, let me see, there was all actors required. Usually if all actors required is off, and I have it so okay. P Squad 1 or P Squad 0 can be the ones that activate it, and this is off. That means if either player 1 or player 2, which could be a squad mate, walk into like whatever the thing is that causes this to start, which we'll get to in a second, that's down here, with all actors required, you don't need them all. You only need one to start it, I believe. And if any of them die, the cutscene will still go, but it'll skip the steps that had that person in them. But we'll keep that on because typically with cutscenes you want that to be active. And then player-only activation lets you keep all the actors required, meaning all these people need to exist. P Squad 0, P Squad 1, which you know I only have one player character, so we're going to leave this like this. But if I had more than one character, I could do P Squad 1 like that. It could be anything, the serial number that you gave to any character. But remember, for player squad mates, it's always P Squad 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, up to however many are in the squad. Which I guess is really just 4 for the most part. But I guess in Arena, that can also be different. Okay. Player-only activation lets you specify that these characters are required, but that only the player is allowed to activate this cutscene by either stepping into a zone, stepping into a room, or just existing. Okay, so we're going to set this to room. Actually, you know what? Let's set this to zone. It's a lot more fun with zone. And then the start zone, we get to pick the start zone. Start zones are just down here. You pick a zone. It can be most zones, but I'm just going to stick with like an event zone. That's that. Make sure it's in the room with the cutscene. Make sure the cutscene links to that. And we should be good to go. Now, if the player steps into that, that should start the cutscene. And we'll have them walk over to that mark to help us understand that the cutscene has started. And let's see. All the waiting, the delays, this I believe is in seconds, yeah. All this stuff is in SceneTools. It all gives you a tutorial. And typically for disabled controls, if you're taking over with the camera, just disable the controls for actors and player. Let that be the default for most times. And replayable's typically not something you want, but you could do. You get the idea. If there's like combat going on in the room, the cutscene could just end. I believe in the Boom Factory. No. It's the first stage of Industrial when Sanford and Demos walk in on that big, I don't know what to call it because these are all just made up rooms, but like a storage room with like a leader merc guy shouting over like all his people. If you kill him, the cutscene that he's in ends because Skip Combat was on, I believe. Or it might have actually been all actors required, and he's now dead. It then cancels the cutscene and then moves on to the alarm that takes place. So I think the only thing we have left to do, besides get rid of that, is explain Force New Player Squad. You typically don't want to use this. Oh yeah, allow outside actors lets you, in steps, give lines to characters that aren't listed in the actor serials. Typically for overhead, you want to include all the actors in this list that are going to be talking. Allow outside actors lets other actors that aren't in this list also talk if you assign a step to them, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then down here, you could be like Hank, Demos, whatever. I'm not going to keep this for this, but it'll look for, these are MadCards, it'll look for MadCards that match these names, and when this cutscene runs, it swaps out your entire squad with these characters. If any of these characters are already in your squad, it won't remake them, it'll use the one that's in the scene. If they don't exist, it'll create new ones, and then you kind of have to control where they go and how it sets them up. Like, you'll have to teleport them and such. That's your responsibility to do as the modder. This is seen when you're in the when you're first entering the courtyard of the science tower, and Sanford and Demos walk to the tower. At which point Hank and Jesus show up and talk, and then you now have a squad of all 4 of them. That's specifically when this system was designed, and it's a very easy way mid-mission to just change everybody that's in it. I don't know that I've ever used this in a game that's like in a stage that's running. I think we've only used it in hubs, but you could try, but it's here for you if you want it. So we're not going to mess with that today. That doesn't need any more explanation anyway. So cutscene cards have, oh yeah, the JSON version contains steps. So yeah, so it's 2 things at once. It's both the cutscene card that then contains the steps, and you're going to be referring to the cutscene card that's going to be made, and I will make sure to write that in just a moment here. In fact, let's see. I'm just going to write it here, and if it turns out it needs to be in a new file, great. I'll do it that way. Cutscene card, cool. So we're going to create a file name, and that's what's going to be linked on the cutscene in the scene. So, cut. There we go. That's going to be the name, so we don't forget. We're going to copy that. We're going to go back to SceneTools, go to our cutscene, and there we go. That will attach to the cutscene card as seen right here. Type cutscene card. Alright, that's the file name. Then over here, we're going to go type conditions. You know what, here, I'm just going to put that on the side so I don't have to keep transferring back and forth. All right, so the next thing is we're going to be setting up the steps, which is as follows: steps, and then and this is a big array that's going to have individual objects. Each one of these is going to be a JSON object step, and I'll show you how to make one of them, and then you can just make as many as you want to after this. And again, in MadCard Maker, this will be a lot easier to do. It'll just jump right out at you, but at least you get to see how this is done in the back end. So the main and most important things that you're going to need here are A, actor serial, which is not mandatory, but if you want the person to do something, you need to specify it here. We already know the player squad 0, P squad 0 is the guy doing the acting. That's what we want. That's step number 1. Then we're going to add the blurb. A blurb is what he's going to say. Again, it's not necessary, but if he says something, we're going to make him say it. We'll say, my cutscene works. Look at that. That's his hello world. And already we're good. This will work. Well, I mean, barring if this is broken or not. But we want to do something else, which is we want him to also then now move someplace. And to do that, we need to specify the mark. And the mark, which is an integer value, is going to be, I'll show you in a second, we're setting that to mark 0 because we go back to this, and anybody who's worked with integers and any coding knows that our list of marks that we have over here, remember marks, boop, boop, like that guy there? And I even have it listed as mark 0 so that if you duplicate it, Unity will change it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That number corresponds with, you have to still add it to the list, but if you do, you'll notice that they get added to the list in a way that allows them to match their index. And the index is their order in the list. And anybody who's coded before knows that in ordered lists, 0 is always the first one. So mark, although it says size 1, size 2, size 3, whatever, this is element 0, as you can see from the 0. Element 0 is mark 0. Cool. Which means if we want him to move to the thing that's in element 0, we need to make sure that on our MadCard or cutscene card, it's set to mark 0. So I'm going to play right quick just to see. You can tell when I was born by every time I say right quick, can't you? But let's not count our chickens here.
I wonder if Okay, so just for bonus stuff, I don't know if
Oh, look, it did it. Oh. There it is. I forgot to set the camera, by the way. That's something you have to do. I forgot to set the camera the same way you set the mark. Let me just double check how you do that. But it did work.